Hello, everyone, and welcome to our book launch today with LSR Press. We're launching the book of Marcus L. Miller, Marching to the Beat of My Drum, the Zen Art of Drumming. And helping us today in the interview is Imani Blackwell. Thank you, Imani, for being here. Thank you, Marcus. Welcome again for everyone, wherever you are at. This meeting is going to be recorded, or this interview is going to be recorded today. So if you wish not to have your picture in it, please put your name or take off the video. Other than that, I'm going to ask everyone to be muted so we can hear Imani and Marcus. And we are very honored to have this time, this 1 hour, to present this book for you and present Marcus's ideas around it. Imani has been invited by Marcus, and I got the pleasure to meet her just a few days ago. And Imani Blackwell is a CEO and founder of I Am Blackwell Management. Blackwell is also a mother, a wife, a creative, and an educator. Originally from Mississippi, Blackwell was raised in California and attended UCLA and received her bachelor's and master's in education. She is a lover of organizational projects, education, the arts, and actively supports consults for fellow small business owners. So please hit her. Ask her questions. Not now, though. When she isn't chasing a toddler or teaching to her kinder son, she is working to expand her business by providing assistance to other entrepreneurs. Her undeniable passion for creativity shines through her skillful approach to ideation. She enjoys helping others see their visions, dreams, and goals become a reality. Her love for education is a reflection of her overall achievement, helping others reach their maximum potential. I want to sign up with you.
Really?
Friends and family often crown her their personal Pinterest creator. She can easily bring any craft, project, or vision to life. Blackwell appreciates the complexities of new challenges as they bring forth exciting opportunities for exploration. So as I present you, Mrs. Imani, I forgot to present myself.
Yes.
I am Katia Haj, and I am the founder and publisher at LSR Press. And again, honored to be here and to be in this wonderful interview and conversation between Imani and Marcus. Please, Imani, take it.
Thank you, Katya and LSR Press. I really appreciate it. I'm excited for this opportunity. Hello, welcome everybody. I would like to introduce everyone to the percussionist Marcus L. Miller. He is a multifaceted artist, and for the past 25 years, Marcus Miller has developed several musical projects, which he has toured and performed internationally. He's recorded over 20 albums, and today we will focus on his newest project, his book, Marching to the Beat of My Drum, The Zen Art of Drumming. To learn more, feel free to check out his website, which will be dropped in the chat. And yes, welcome, Marcus.
Thank you, Imani. Good to see you. Good morning.
Likewise. Good morning. So excited. All right, let's get this show started. All right. As a musician, drummer specifically, did you ever see yourself writing a book?
You know, sort of. I have to say, I guess I kind of did, to be honest. I didn't know what kind of book it would be. I have a lot of poetry I've collected over the years, so I thought maybe I'd release that as a volume. And Katya does release poetry works, and so I considered maybe bringing some works like that. But this kind of came as a little shocker, yes. But it made sense with the rest of my journey. I mean, once I got to it and really got into it, it was natural. You know, it's just like writing a song. So.
Oh, nice. Yes. I love that. I'm excited. Now, who or what was the inspiration for your book when you started writing?
Well, I guess I started in Russia in 2009. I was on a 6-week tour. Yeah. It was my first time to the motherland of Russia. And I've been many times, right? And I really have a fondness for this country. It's kind of, kind of one of those beautiful places and a lot of beautiful people there. And on this first tour, we were on planes, trains, buses, cars, boat, everything you can name to travel, because we went from Moscow to Vladivostok. So I had a
Hmm.
long time to see the entire country. We followed the Volga River, and it was winter. So it wasn't much to do,
Yeah.
especially on the train. It was just sitting there and having a couple shots of vodka to stay warm and writing stories about the beautiful landscape I was seeing outside, and just taking all that in. And so I decided to start writing about some of my thoughts that I was having about, just drumming and where my philosophies and just thoughts. Really, it's kind of like a conversation I was having with myself, basically.
Yeah.
And so that was what really kind of launched me into it. But I have a really, really dear friend, and he's still here with me, Angel
Okay.
Figueroa, who's one of my mentors. And I speak of him in the book. He was really an encouraging, strong factor to push me to do it. He had encouraged me to write a book. He was like, "Man, just write a book." And I was like, "About what?" He goes, "Whatever." I was like, "Okay,
Writing.
right." It'd probably help if I knew what I was going to write about, right? But
No, you just got to start, and that's
yeah,
what you did.
so that's
Awesome.
what I did. I started, and
Now, being that he's your mentor, did you write the book for him, or was there someone specific or people specific that you write your
and
book
that's
for?
the subtlety, right? So I did not write the book for him. The book is actually dedicated to a mutual friend of Angel and I who passed away. Her name, the late Emily Capata Cotton. She
Oh,
was our manager at one point, and one of my dearest friends. I've dedicated the book to her as well as to my uncle who passed away a few years back. He was a professional drummer and really got me started with drumming. He was the first to give me a drum, give me books at age 10. And so he was like my little role model of like, all right, I can be like my Uncle Willie, and
definitely.
and
I
and
love
then
that.
during, I guess it was right before COVID. Wow, 2019. My drum teacher, my jazz drumming teacher, passed away. The late Clarence Johnston. So I dedicated the book to those three. That's who it was for. But it's really meant for anyone and everyone, right? You don't have to be a drummer. It's just
Right.
it's really about information. So anyone that can read, pick it up. I'm sorry I didn't have it in other forms to cover everybody, but
No,
uh,
no, this is
I had to
wonderful.
start like that. But no, the book is intended to reach all audiences. That's where I'm at with it.
That's beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. Like that's
You're
very
welcome.
intimate and inspiring, and it speaks a lot about you. I love hearing about how it was started and even the people that inspired you to write it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, what would you like the takeaway to be when people read your book? Like,
I guess here's some feedback I did hear from someone that read it. My mom. And my mom, backstory, my mom was a librarian for 35 years at a university in Virginia. And so I grew up basically in the library, spending a lot of time there. And when she read it, she goes, I think I learned something. Those are her words, right? About,
I think I learned
and
something.
and I was so excited because I was like, that showed me that it wasn't just for drummers. It wasn't a drum book, right? And she,
Right.
some of the information that I shared was insight to drumming. And so that showed me what I really wanted people, what I hope people get, take away is information, right? That
Yes.
you'll learn something that you didn't know before, or maybe be inspired to do something that you didn't do before. Perhaps even understand and see the dedication and the motivation that it requires to do, the arts, right, at a high level. There's a
Hmm.
lot of practice time involved. So I try and bring those things to the forefront of how it is we can, once we start to pursue something, what we have to do to get to it, right? So
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
that's, I guess that's what I want you to get out of it. If you once you pick it up and start
You
scrolling
know,
through.
I think you need to give yourself a pat on the back because as a librarian, they know everything. Like they know so much. They're literally in a world of knowledge. So for your mother to say she learned something, that's a big feat.
And a reference librarian at that.
All right. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I was a kid who grew up with encyclopedias everywhere.
All right. Now, could you share with us when you started writing? Like, did you just wake up one day and say, I'm gonna write a book?
No, I didn't do that. But I started writing, I started writing in high school, I mean, just like poetry, right? Again. And college, as a history major, I took a lot of English and Russian literature classes and creative writing classes just to enhance my skills as a history major because I had to write so much for that. So I really enjoyed writing. And I did a lot of scripting because I was also a director and producer of a lot of shows for our school's cable channel. So I wrote, plots for shows like, basic setups, character dialogue. So I saw that I had some skills there. I just didn't really pursue it like that. And then, wow, I guess really Russia was kind of when I had some time, right? Because
Like the Great Awakening.
well, yeah, because I had time. Normally, with the music industry, you're always doing and going. At least I was for a while, and so I didn't have time to be settled to focus on writing.
Mm-hmm.
So it gave me a moment to really kind of put my thoughts together and start writing, writing them down and sharing them. So, yeah, that's kind of when this project really started and came to be, right? So, but just writing in general goes way back to once I learned how to count and put letters together and spell. I
Right.
was on. I was in. I was sold.
That's amazing. So I'm learning so much about you. I've known Marcus for a while now. So it's like hearing the story and learning about how he came to writing this book. It's beautiful. So you guys check it out, please. All
Yes,
right.
please.
Now, what would you say was the most challenging part of this whole process? Like, as I'm learning about this, it's like a lot of this kind of came with ease, but I need to know what was the most challenging part?
Oh, there were some challenges. That's my editors. It's called revisions,
Oh
rewrite.
boy.
Yeah, that part was definitely, the reality of like, oh, what did I just get into? Okay, hey, I've got to rewrite everything I just wrote. Oh, that'll be fun.
Uh, so the editing process. All right. Or
Editing,
revision, I should say.
yeah, because
Okay.
you have to trim the fat, right? There's some stuff that just doesn't need to be there, and as an artist, even this carries over into my forms of creating music as well as I create documentaries. So I deal with a lot of editing, right? Whether it's audio, video, and in this case,
Right.
with print, I knew that part was coming. But
Mm-hmm.
in the other two realms, I'm the final say. In this realm, I wasn't final say, so
Right.
I kind of had to say, okay, whatever they say and suggest, let me go with it. And they
Man.
gave me a lot of room to say, all right, this isn't, this doesn't have to be the final, right? But we're just strongly suggesting that, you listen to what we're recommending. And it all made sense, right? I appreciated their eyes.
Not a pressure. Oh.
Yeah, because to get a product from where we started to where we ended took a lot of attention and love, care, and stroking, and just to make it work right. Because I wasn't like resistant to everything, right? There are only a couple things I was like, nah, this should be like that. But for the most part, what they said made sense, and I was willing to change and do whatever I had to get as close to of the final product, for the better read.
Interesting. Okay. Now, as you're writing this book, you talk about your challenges. And I think the one question that I do have as well about like the challenging part is writer's block. Do you believe in it? Did you have it?
It's real, but I didn't really have it, honestly. I know.
No writer's block?
No writer's block because, all right, so here's my philosophy about creating things, right?
Mhm.
I only do things when I'm inspired.
Mm.
So when I'm inspired to do it, I'm clear, I'm led, I'm focused. It just flows like water, right? Whether it's music, writing prose or poetry or whatever. So if I'm not inspired, I can't write, right? I'm not going to force it because then I'll just be putting words out that may not make a lot of sense or be not connected to whatever I wrote previously. So I want to keep it all in a moment of
In flow?
time,
Right.
right? And so when I write like that, and knowing that's always been my approach to writing since I started writing essay papers right back in college. I was like, let me sit down and knock this out. I could be really focused on something, right? But if I have to break it up and come back, and I'll lose my train of thought, and so I haven't really suffered from writer's block. Now, again, I'm not always writing. So if I were doing that regularly, I might have a different tale to tell. But
Right.
um, with this project, no, I was fortunate. Thank you that I didn't have to deal with searching and trying to find something, to add or make it better. And
Wow, you're blessed. That's talent as well. Like to be able to say that I haven't had writer's block. Like some of our greatest writers are always like, I've had writer's block, definitely. And they have all these creative ways of how they go through it, but you already have a method, a system, and that's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's real. I'm not even gonna say or try to deny deny that it didn't exist. No, it's definitely there. But like I said, just again, my approach to it was let's try to avoid that.
Wow. All right, now for the fun stuff. And I know I have my questions and audience. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and then we can follow up with them after I go through all my questions. But what was your favorite chapter?
Oh man. Oh woman. I said, oh man. Oh woman.
Hey, all good.
Uh, to write or to read, or how should I take that? Maybe I guess. All right. Let me take the way I received it. The dynamic duo, I think, was probably my favorite chapter. Uh, I got to kind of talk about some of the crazy percussionist friends that are in my life that I've met along this journey, this path. And one I mentioned, Angel Figueroa, but there are a lot of them, and so that was fun because there's as a drummer, I always say there's a fine line difference between a drummer and percussionist. Uh, a drummer, for the most part, in my perspective, is someone who plays drum set, right?
Right.
With the cymbals, all that kind of stuff, tom-toms, bass drum. But percussionists play a lot of the things that you see behind me, perhaps, djembes, congas, things
Wow.
that don't necessarily require sticks, and you sit down and use the four appendages, right? A drummer uses the four appendages. A percussionist uses two for the most part, right? And maybe a foot to join in on something. But so that little difference means we work together a lot, and we have to have these hopefully good working relationships. And so that chapter, I got to speak about how you can connect with a percussionist if you're a drummer, and try and have a really beautiful, coexistence. Uh,
Wow.
and I spoke to some moments where I've not to brag or anything, but I've had a chance to be really around some incredible percussionists. I mean, I've played with Babatunde Olatunji before he passed. I got to
Wow.
play with Sheila E. That was one of the first opportunities out here with my friend Leon Mobley, who's an ultimate percussionist in his own right, and another mentor. He opened the door. We have, there's a whole nother story in the book too. But we have a band together, had a band together, and that opened the door to me connecting with more percussionists.
Mhm.
Giovanni Hidalgo, so I've got to really experience some of the world's greatest. And so
Nice.
understanding, and just having a chance to be around that energy, you know, affected me, right? And so, yeah, I think that's probably the chapter I like the
Okay,
most.
thanks for sharing. Long rap sheet. Wow. So make sure check
I'm
out his
old.
website. He has a lot of stuff on there, music. I know some of you guys heard it in the waiting room. That jazz had you
All
jamming.
right.
Right. Okay. So I know we kind of talked about the overall process, but now my question is, what was the difficult and most smoothest part of the writing? Like we talked about, like the editing and the writer's block and all these different things, but just like the, more zeroed in writing, difficult and smoothest.
Trying to make sure I stay grammatically correct,
Mm.
throughout the book, and make sure I don't have too many errors. It's been a long time since I was in school, so I had to, you know, check the old brain and make sure I remember. Oh yeah, run-ons. Oh yeah, they do exist.
And for
Complex
a long-winded
sentences.
person, it happens.
All right, so just that attention to detail, being really thorough about that, and again, that's why the revisions and the rewrites were like, okay, really take notice of that, because in conversation, because there's a difference, right? Sometimes we'll write conversationally,
Mhm.
and the language is different.
Right.
So, but that's not always how we really want the readers to read the language, right?
Definitely.
So, got to make those changes. So it was kind of just always not rewriting, but re-editing myself to make sure that I was saying things properly, so that
Exactly.
things come across looking like, oh yes, he is educated. He can put a sentence together.
All
Because
your
again,
drummer friends
as
are like,
as a
"What?"
drummer, we're the butt of all the jokes, right? Every musician is always
Definitely.
cracking jokes on us about what we can't do, or don't know, right? So for us to write a book, I need to make sure, some things are as tight as possible. Um, But as for the writing process, I guess you said the hardest creative. What was that? The
You
most.
talked about the hardest and most difficult. Now, what was the smoothest part? Or, I mean, we may have already kind of talked about it because the talented Marcus had no issues with writer's block. So it's almost like the whole book was kind of easy, you know?
Yeah, because I had 6 weeks of just writing, right? So whatever I was thinking of that moment, it just flowed out. So
Right.
that's why that part was kind of smooth and easy,
So
right?
beautiful.
I didn't have to, I guess if I wanted to make it, more voluminous, I would have spent more time in trying to think of, all right, how is this connected to that? How can I resolve this and maybe go? But again, it was just more of my thoughts and ideas, right, that I wanted to share. So once I got those out, I could kind of look at it and say, okay, all right, I think I said what I needed to say on that subject, and I didn't want to be too long-winded either, right? So
Hmm. Now, I'm a firm believer in old school pen and paper. I got books all over my house. I'm old school paperback. Why'd you choose an ebook? Like, was it? Yeah.
the bells and whistles.
Oh man.
All right, just
Interesting.
when offered to me and presented that way,
Mhm.
it was hard to say no because I saw, I'm a tech head, right? So I saw what was possible through an ebook that an old fashioned paper bound just can't give you, and the ability to include video, audio,
I never
pictures,
knew.
all of those, you're right. All of those things in the
Video,
21st
audio.
century make
Yeah.
reading a little bit more interesting when you can connect the dots to other things that you're reading about, and then you don't, necessarily have to go research something else in the middle of while you're reading. You can just hit on the
Right.
link and find out about it, right?
Right to it.
Yeah. So
Interesting
I was really
perspective.
fortunate that my publishing company had this option because I was happy to have a paper bound. No, don't get it wrong, but
Right.
I just saw the bigger possibilities of what ebook meant, and in a time of when we should be more focused on conservation, especially with
Mhm.
paper. I also didn't want to have a negative footprint
Yes,
having more
one
paper out
more.
there. Right.
No,
So E is a little easier. As long as they don't unplug the internet anytime soon, we're all good, right? So
yeah. Okay, gotcha. So we kind of talked about editing and revisions and all those types of things, and you would think that with the ebook you wouldn't have to edit as much, but is there anything that you did edit out?
a little bit, just a little petite, just a
Okay,
little, not
share.
much.
What did you edit
Mo-
out? Why?
Mostly, like I said, grammar stuff. Anything that I didn't feel was that needed to be there. There were some sections where I had said something and then I maybe said it again later,
Mm-hmm.
and it was too similar. So don't
Got
be
it.
redundant, right? Don't ever want to be guilty of that.
Okay.
But for the most part, yeah, most of everything stayed intact. There were just maybe the way it was stated was changed, right? In
Okay.
the editing process.
Nothing juicy cut out.
Nah, nah.
Ah, boom. Okay. I was looking for all the juicy stuff. Like, what was the secrets that you had to take out? Okay. All
No, 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 no. I left everything in there. So all the juice, it's still full of juice, full of juice.
right. Perfect. All right, Mr. Drummer Book Writer. I'm sure you shocked your audience and all your talented drummer friends who are like, you wrote a book. But
He can
typically, every
spell.
writer, say that again?
He can spell.
No, like what? Typically, every writer has an author who inspires them, who guides them. Do you have a favorite author or writer?
Oh, for sure. Without a doubt, my favorite writer author is Dr. John Heinrich Clark. Uh,
Ooh,
he
noted.
I've read most of his books. Actually, I can't even say that. I've read a lot of his books. He has so many books I can't say I've read most of them because I keep finding new ones that I haven't read.
Wow.
The one I'm in now is the latest. Well, it's not his latest, but I think it was actually the last book he wrote before he transitioned to be an ancestor, On My
Okay.
Journey Now. And it just kind of encapsulates his life and paints a good picture, a beautiful picture of the struggle that he was always bringing to light. If you're not hip to Dr. John Heinrich Clark, I highly recommend Africana Studies. But I like reading a lot of stuff. So I don't just read his books, right? Like I just don't listen to Prince, even though I love Prince. I do listen to other music too, but Hunter S. Thompson, very one, one of my favorite writers.
Okay.
Dr. Hunter S. Thompson, I think I should laud him properly since he recently passed. I think he was a doctor. But I loved his journalistic style. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
The gonzo journalism was just, you know, when I started reading him was in college. So I could parallel with his some of his journeys. But, you know, I don't know. Edgar Allan Poe, Oscar Wilde, you know,
Yeah.
I have a lot of different influences for different styles of writing, whether it's prose or poetry, right? So
I love that. An educated drummer. No, just kidding. No, that was amazing. Like, you know, a lot of great writers. And I wonder if this is kind of like speaking to like because your mother was a librarian, or were some of these people just folks that you stumbled on through college or through just, you know, your own discoveries.
all of that, you know, by spending so much time you know, she was a reference librarian at Norfolk State University, so I had
Right,
access to a
right.
university library, so I could go explore, right? I
Wow.
was, and aside, you know, even though I was really focusing on sports books at the time, right, of like who's my favorite sports hero, Roger Staubach, Tony Dorsett, reading about them, you know,
Yeah.
I also, as I got older, understood that through books I could get information. This is all pre-internet for the younger ones
Mhm.
who might be tuned in. So we still had to actually know how to read really well to learn and take in information
Yes.
that we didn't know. And so, you know, and being in the schools that I was at, right, I was forced to read quite a bit, right? High school, I mean, you know, throughout high school, all of that time, and obviously in college. But so my journey of reading and discovering new authors came just kind of on my own. Peers, you know, we would recommend books if there was like my best friend happened to actually be. It's funny when he graduated, he moved to another state and became a librarian. And for like over 25 years, he was a librarian, and it was always tripping me out. I was like, wow, this is
Wow.
funny. I never saw that coming. But he would
Degree.
recommend books, you know, because he had access to a lot. So you know, you never know where a good book might come from. You know, I always have somebody. Angel, my friend Angel's always like, "Yo, man, take my Audible account. Just check out all the stuff here." You know.
And that, as you say that, I'm kind of thinking like you might have to make your like Marcus Miller's top picks or something.
Oh no, no.
Yeah. Talk about some of the artists, I mean, the authors that you like, some of the books that inspired you. It's a great way, you know. I'm just saying.
Maybe that
You
sounds like social
inspiring not
media
only
stuff.
little drummers, but little writers as well.
That's true. That's true.
Yes, yes.
Thank you
Okay.
for that.
You've written the book, all the hard work is done, and you're gonna share it with the world. Now I want to know, how did you connect with your publishing company, LSR Press?
Divine intervention. They came
Ooh,
at the right time, the right moment.
right place, right
Uh,
time.
Literally, it was one of those things that just kind of happened naturally and as my, you know, I guess kind of organically, right? I couldn't tell you the exact year. It was
No.
pre-COVID,
Okay.
but I had known Katya for a little while, and I found out that she was starting a publishing company, and oh, maybe it was 2019, right? And it was right before COVID. Yeah, I just couldn't remember the exact dates. It's hard for me to remember yesterday, like what happened. So but when she mentioned it to me, I was really excited for her because I was like, "Wow, that's a really cool endeavor." You know, again, Katya is such a heavy artist. She does so many different things that when she added that to her list, I was like, "Oh my God, you're amazing!" Right? And I mentioned to her that I had this manuscript, and she was like, "Oh, let me see, let me check it out." And the rest is history, right? So
Yes, yes.
uh, that's how we came together on it, and it's beautiful, nice story. They were really, really totally supportive and really held my hand, you know, through the process, knowing that this is my first time through. And she had a few books at this point under her belt, so you know, seasoned, accomplished publisher here with her team, and so I knew I was in good hands, and I'm enjoying the ride. You know, so I'm looking forward to what comes in the future with LSI Press.
All right. So there's some information about that that I want to get to the audience. But before we do that, there's a couple questions that I saw that the audience wrote that if you don't
Oh,
mind opening it up.
sure.
Uh Gina Dappermont said, "Is this a storybook, a how-to genre focus? Basically, is it meant to entertain or gain knowledge?" And I know you kind of spoke on it, but I think this is a really good time to talk about it before we let the audience know where we can purchase the book.
More of the gain knowledge information. It's not a how-to book by any means, right? So there are enough of those. I didn't, you know, nah. that wasn't what I was going for. So this
Basically,
is
he's trying to say he's not sharing his drumming secrets.
you can sign up for lessons anytime, right?
Oh, yes. Master
but
classes.
but this gives you more of like, insight, philosophy, thoughts, stories, some storytelling in there, that kind of thing. I
That
hope
leads
that answers that question.
No, I think you totally did. And then there's someone who says, for all of us who has kids, how do you create the time and space for your writing and creativity?
Ooh, that's
That's a
hard.
hard one.
Yeah, that's not easy. I wake up really early and I go to bed really early. All right.
So
So
like
that
4 and 5 a.m. really early.
because in those quiet, and I learned this from one of my mastering engineers, right? He would get up and have these 4 o'clock mixing sessions where it's just quiet and it's just him and the music, and he's tuned in. And I was like, hey, he's on to something. So I started waking up just to see what I could do at 4 o'clock. First, I was like, how am I up at 4? Why am I up at 4? And once I got over that, I realized that there was stuff I could do for my own development, right? Whether it's practicing piano, I can't really start playing drums at 4 in the morning. So I had to find some quieter instruments that I could, do some work on. So that meant either getting on the computer, which I really don't want to do at 4 in the morning. So I was like, it's either write or practice piano or, some other quiet thing, right? But those times, those hours that, I don't sleep a lot anymore. So I figured since I'm not trying to get 8 hours every day, let me just get a
Right,
little
make
time.
time.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
I know I need, and then get right back to it. Inshallah, if I get the time, and right, if it's
Yeah.
given. So once
Thank
the new day dawns, oh, let's start. Let's do
Get it
something.
going. Early bird
Let's,
gets the worm.
you feel me?
I love it. I love it. Okay, the hard work is done. We're sharing it with the world. I know this wasn't an easy feat. Now tell us, to anyone who may be considering writing their first book, what would you like to share with them? What insights, tips, resources, anything?
Go for it. Do it. Follow your heart. Right? Follow. Be inspired. Really
Yes.
be inspired, because it's something that once you pursue, you don't know how long it's going to take. Right. So you really want to make sure you're all in. Uh,
Wow.
a lot of people self-publish, but I recommend finding a publisher, LSR perhaps, LSR Press, because you want someone to assist, right, in the process, to give you some insight, some feedback. A lot of times we may think we know everything, and some days I feel like that, but I've learned, don't always just trust myself. Listen to others; it'll make it better, right? But really, if you have an idea or thoughts that you've collected and you can share and put it out, give it to the world. Don't hold it. Don't keep it here, right? Let others potentially learn more that they didn't know, because one of the mottos I always say is, if you pay attention, you'll learn something, right? So in everyday occurrence, if you're watching, hear, see something you didn't see before, hear something you didn't hear, or read something you hadn't read before, you may become smarter, more in tune, a better person, more enlightened, all those things, right? Or more aware and conscious, even.
Stay woke.
Whoa, she said it, not me.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. That's some great information. I appreciate it. All
You're
right, you
welcome.
check this off the list. What is next? Are you writing another book? Do you have any other projects coming out? What's happening? Tell us.
Next book, huh?
Volume of poetry.
Yeah, well, those are kind of just sitting there. I'd have to collect them, dust them off a little bit and see. But no, honestly, I think I know what's next. It's a big musical project. I'm always doing music stuff next.
Yeah.
All right. But my book, if I do write another book, it'd probably be like a memoirs, right? I kind of think that's where I'm at. I've been journaling for over 30 years, like my life arc. And there's some real epic moments in there that, if I can sit down and find the time to really chip away at it, I think there's a really cool story, and at least just from a historian perspective, right? There's a lot of stuff that happened in my time that the pendulum has swung, shifted, right? So I kind of wouldn't mind speaking to that, but there's so much that's happening. It's hard for me to wrap my brain around it, because right now it seems like there's so much information and so much going on that I want to speak on that. I want to say that. You know what I mean? So it's like, all right, I need to let this stuff happen. Hopefully, get older, then look at it and have a better perspective of it. To really put a better eye on it of what it was, and then speak to it. So maybe when I'm 20 years from now, I'll start another project like that. One of
Katya,
my dear
you're
friends
ready.
with the yeah, one of my dear friends with the Watts Prophets, Amdi Hamilton, one of the last prophet actually. I mean last sorry, Watts Prophet. Let me be clear.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
he has been writing this book since his teens. He's in his 80s now.
Wow.
And I was like, Amdi, when you gonna be done? He goes, when I'm not here, it'll be done.
Right.
So I
Wow.
figured that's a good strategy. Just keep writing, and then when you're done, let somebody else edit it, right? And they'll
Got it.
figure out what's good, bad, take out, whatever. But just tell the story, let it
Yes,
evolve.
definitely.
Um, but my next thing, I'm always doing some music projects. So we have some cool thing coming up for Kwanzaa that we're working on. I can't really say much about it, but it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful LA event at the Lula Washington Dance Theater. I can say that much.
Woo.
Um, and next year, let's just stay tuned in. MarcusMillerDrums.com.
Got
You can
a lot of
really,
big things coming up.
yeah, there's some things happening. I don't want to say too much, honestly, just cause, right? But there are some
Yeah.
really cool things happening. So
Right, right. So the website is in the chat. You definitely need to check in because there he has a lot of great stuff coming up. I can speak to that myself. And would you mind telling our audience where they can buy the book? It's been put in the chat, but just for
oh,
yeah.
LSRpress.com.
Thank you.
All
Thank you.
right. And please check the chat. ELYSSARPRESS.com, if I'm not mistaken, right? That's off the top of
Yes,
my head.
yes.
I can't spell, see?
The links are in
But
the chat. Our lovely publication team and our chat moderators, thank you so much, have provided plenty of links for everyone to have quick access to hop
awesome.
on and purchase. I also want to say thank you, Marcus. You're such a lovely soul. I have not only enjoyed interviewing, but I'm also honored to have the opportunity to do this.
Kudos. Thank you, Imani. It was a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you for being you. You
Thank you.
know,
Thank you. Now, guilty plug, this is your chance. Are there any upcoming tours? Anything that you want to share with the audience?
we're working on some. I'll say this much: we're working on some tours for next year. Hopefully, things come together. I haven't gotten any confirmations yet, so I don't want to say too much. Shows, like I said, there is a great thing happening in December. If you can tune in and want to check it out, please do. Lula Washington Dance Theater, December 28th. But next year, a couple of my projects, the Afro Fusion project is a new project I'm dropping on. We just did our debut performance here in Los Angeles, and we're looking to take that beyond in 23 and hit the road. My ensemble, Marcus Miller Ensemble, will be doing some stuff with the Lula Washington Dance Theater quite a bit, including December 28th and beyond. And my Afro Persian experience. There's this other beautiful project that I have with my dear friend Mehdi Bagari. We're working on some dates. We don't have anything lined up yet, but we do have an album, a beautiful album that we released right when COVID started. So some of the shine got lost during the COVID thing. So if you want to support and hear some beautiful world music of Persia and African diaspora, please check us out on Bandcamp, right? Afro Persian Experience. Right?
Awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of what's on the burner.
All right. Thanks again. Thanks, audience. We really appreciate you guys coming, listening. I really hope that you guys check it out. Also, stay tuned for any upcoming projects that you'll see that our talented Mr. Marcus Miller will be sharing with us.
Thank you all so much. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate you all. Have a beautiful day. Thank you, Katya. Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you, all the LSR Press family. And please pick up the book. It's available at some other bookstores, but I know if you go to lsrpress.com, that's where it's easiest to find. So
Yes, yes. All right, everyone. Have a happy weekend and thanks again.
yes, adios. Ciao.